What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot to get into. First and foremost, the NVA happened last weekend. How about some of these great matchups, these great results? The Matadors, the Inland Empire Matadors, stunning the Las Vegas Ramblers. Did anyone have that on their bingo card? I certainly didn't. And there were some other good matchups that happened as well. In the NCAA men's volleyball scene, there were a lot of great matchups. How about Stanford pulling off 2 wins over Grand Canyon? Loyola falling twice as Ohio State and Ball State are co-league champions with the Ramblers. Also, how about Quincy winning its first conference game in 27 tries? Impressive stuff. And we have an AVP tournament this weekend, and we had some NCAA Beach Volleyball to get into. So hand me a volleyball, send it to that, but I'm about to serve you up some volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way into episode 189 of Set Point. I forgot to mention the introduction. We actually have a guest, Matt Prosser, former Long Beach State men's volleyball player and head coach of the Orange County Stunners, is joining me. Unfortunately, he did get caught in a little bit of traffic as of this recording, so he's going to be on a little bit later, but for right now, you got me to deal with. With all that said and done, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio going live, providing the coverage, and providing the platform to go live on Spreaker. Please do follow them on all social media platforms such as Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. You can also follow them on Facebook, if you still use it, by typing in the word IE, then Sports, then Radio in the search bar, liking and then following them on Facebook, and then poof, that's how you follow IE Sports Radio on Facebook. We also have a website, www.iesportsradio.com, and when you go there, you'll see a Patreon link at the top, and once you click it, and once you choose to donate, if you do so, the Patreon link will take you to the donations, and donations will start at $5 a month if you choose to donate. This will get you a shout from all 27 of our shows, including this one, and higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to ISRU, the podcasting university of IE Sports Radio, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment with Larry B. Because for the past 8 years, going on 9 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel, such as Matt Prosser, who's also a former athlete, to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've been continuing to be by the fans and for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next biggest step. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Shout out to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised Apparel, Key to the Gate, Marcus Lewis Great, and a donor that wishes to remain anonymous. And with all that said and done, let us begin. So we're going to start off with the NCAA men's volleyball side of things. So I was going to start off with the NVA, but we're going to save that for a little later. So we're just going to try skim through most of these. So for the week 14 matches that happened last week, so the ones that, I'm just going to get the ones out of the way that kind of were expected to happen. So on Thursday, UCLA took down USC both times. First matchup was 25-22, 25-17, 25-22 at the John Wooden Center. It actually was at John Wooden Center and not Pauley Pavilion. And with that win, UCLA clinched the number 1 seed of the MPSF tournament, and they were the outright regular season MPSF champion, which it was kind of unavoidable. And then also on Saturday, UCLA beat USC, which was honestly no surprise. 25-20, 25-17, and 25-20. Also on Thursday, Ohio State beat Purdue-Fort Wayne 25-14, 25-19, 25-15. Jumping over to Saturday, Long Beach State beat CSUN 25-19, 25-18, 25-16. Also on Saturday, Hawaii beat UC Irvine 26-24, 25-20, and 25-19. Hawaii winning that close first set kind of was what set the tone, and that was also what kind of took the wind out of UC Irvine's sails. And then also on Saturday, Ball State beat Purdue-Fort Wayne, which was also no surprise. 25-17, 25-17, 25-22. So now let's jump on into the upsets, or the notable matches, or the breakdowns of these matches. So there are actually some big-time notable matchups starting on Thursday. So we'll start with the MIVA, and we'll start with the Thursday matchups altogether. So this matchup, I forgot this matchup actually existed. Quincy and McKendree. So these were kind of the last place teams in the MIVA, but believe it or not, Quincy actually came out on top. I hate to bash Quincy on this, but Quincy was kind of that last place team, kind of the, I wouldn't say punching bag of the conference, but it's like whenever you saw Quincy, you weren't really thinking, oh, this might be a tough matchup. I mean, obviously you don't want to underestimate a team, but it's like Quincy, unfortunately, was just having that rough season. They had actually lost 26 consecutive conference matches dating back to last season, up until this point where they beat McKendree in 5 sets, 27-25, 16-25, 26-24, 19-25, and 15-13. It was actually their first conference win under head coach Karen Kemner, as Quincy was led by Raj Aline, who had 25 kills, AJ Godhere had 12 kills, and Keegan Carey added 11 kills. As a team, Quincy hit 262. They also had some good blocks. They outblocked their opponent. They had 9 solo stuffs to the 7. And as a team, they outstuffed their opponent 14.5 to 10. Though the serving wasn't all that great, but everything else was pretty solid, especially that 5th set. Quincy was pretty solid in that 5th set, only having 1 hitting error. As for McKendree, they were led by Tyler Tripp, who had 14 kills. Kyle Wilson had 13 kills, but that's kind of where the buck stops, as their next kill leader behind Wilson had 8 kills. They had 2 players with 8 kills. Wilson had 13 digs, which was kind of a bright spot for them. But for the most part, McKendree hit 244, which wasn't bad, but it's like it wasn't going to win you a whole lot of games. So, unfortunately for McKendree, they kind of had to be that one team to lose to Quincy. But hey, it happens sometimes. Like, it just happens. So, there's no shame in losing, but as long as you don't lose in in what truly matters, the conference tournament, you're in good shape. So that was that for that little matchup. And then jumping over to the MPSF. So I also forgot this matchup was happening, except not really. So this was between Concordia Irvine and Pepperdine. And Pepperdine was able to pull off the upset, which I thought was pretty impressive. I did not think Pepperdine was going to Concordia was going to pull off this upset. But though they did have 2 wins over ranked teams. They beat Loyola Chicago, and they also beat Grand Canyon. But Pepperdine's kind of been, it's so tough to really tell how they've been doing. Like, they haven't really been at their best, but they haven't really been too terrible. But they've kind of have not impressed me as of late. So for the Waves, they kind of need to really change it up a bit, just because if they want to go deep in the MPSF tournament, they really need to actually play some good volleyball and not just bank on Jalen Jasper. Otherwise, they're going to be pretty much waxed in the first round, possibly. Just because, or they'll be on the path of UCLA, and no one wants to be on that path. No one wants to face UCLA at all, unless it's in the final. Anyway, Concordia was led by Yuri Batista, who had 22 kills. Gage Doble had 12 kills. Pepperdine was led by Jalen Jasper, who had 22 kills. Jacob Steele and Akin Akinwumi each had 12 kills. The set scores were Pepperdine winning the first set 25-18. Second set, Concordia won it 25-17. Third set, Concordia steamrolled Pepperdine that third set 25-17. Then the fourth set was very crazy. Concordia got off to such a hot start. They were riding the momentum. They led 22-15. And I'm thinking that this is pretty much going to be a blowout. But Pepperdine just works their way back in it. They get some good swings from Jasper, get some good serving in. Suddenly it's 23-23, and I'm thinking, instead of this being a 4-set upset for Concordia, I'm thinking this one might go 5. But Concordia pulls the plug and defeats Pepperdine in 4. This actually took place at Concordia University, Irvine. So, kind of expected that Concordia would come out ready to play. And also, there is no challenge system at Concordia. So, that's kind of something you need to be prepared for. So, yeah. The good news is for Concordia, for Pepperdine, is that they got revenge over the Golden Eagles. But that loss kind of leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Alright, jumping over to the MIVA, and Adam, I hate to do this to you, but Loyola just really laid an egg this week. First and foremost, they played Ball State. Now, all Loyola needed to do was win one match this week, and then poof, they're the number 1 seed of the MIVA tournament, and they're the outright MIVA regular season conference champions. They got swept by Ball State. Ball State won 25-21, 25-18, and 27-25. Now, they actually ran 2 liberos. They ran Matt Oakley as libero, and they also ran J.J. Sawa as libero. I'm not sure if that's a little experiment going on with John Hawks, but it's like, I don't know, maybe it's working, maybe it's not working. They didn't look like they had anyone out that was too key, as Parker Van Buren and Cole Schlotthauer both played. Dan Mangun also played. The problem, and Loyola didn't even play that terrible. They hit 283, which wasn't that bad, though they missed 16 serves compared to Ball State's 6. That's not going to win you a whole lot of matches. And they only had 3.5 blocks, and they got outdug 30-22. Meanwhile, Ball State hit 375, and they weren't even led by Caleb Jennis, who had 11 kills. They were led by Tanashi Davazocheva, who had 15 kills. And if I mispronounce that last name, I apologize. David Flores had 9 digs to go along with his 3 kills and 28 assists. So Ball State had that win, and then like I said, Ohio State won their match against Purdue Fort Wayne. So Loyola was not the conference champion. And the good thing for Ball State and Ohio State is that they were at no worst the 2 and 3 seed of the MIVA tournament. Jumping over to Saturday, we had Loyola Chicago taking on Ohio State. So, again, unfortunately, I couldn't really pay attention to these matchups all that much. And it really sucks because I missed a whole lot of NCAA volleyball just because I was focused on the NVA. But hey, life happens. So Ohio State won this matchup in 3 sets, 29-27, 28-26, and 25-23. This one was very intense. This match combined for 47 ties and 17 lead changes, and Ohio State didn't even have a player crack double digits in kills, though they had 2 players that nearly had 10 kills. They had 2 players with 9 kills, Jacob Pasteur and Shane Wetzel. Ohio State didn't even hit that great. They hit only 202, which is surprising, and Loyola had 11 blocks. So, yikes. And Loyola, they were led by Parker Van Buren, who had 18 kills. Nick Martinsky had 9 kills. So, and they didn't have Cole Schlotthauer, so, And Adam Karnick, thank you for popping into the chat room. Thank you to Larry B. and Adam Karnick for popping into the chat room. Adam asks, was Loyola not so hot the past few months? What happened? Did they just go cold? That's actually a very good question. So they have not been playing their greatest. They lost to Princeton earlier, I want to say in late May, early April. And They they had to go 5 with George Mason. They lost to Purdue Fort Wayne, which, Purdue Fort Wayne was battle tested against the number 1, 2, and 3 team prior to that matchup. But it's like this week, it kind of felt weird. But not having Cole Schlotthauer definitely does not help matters. But it's like, that's not good for Loyola. Especially in a big matchup where you really need to come up big. Now, I know Ohio State has done really well at Covalli Center. That's kind of been their safe haven. But it's like, you have to win this game in order to be the number 1 seed. Otherwise, things can get really crazy and hairy. And for Ohio State, they did that. And Loyola just did not win. It's just crazy. This is what MIVA Madness is all about, or MIVA Madness is all about. Loyola hit 220, and they had 32 digs compared to the 36 digs that Ohio State had. Jack Stevens had 11 digs, which was pretty good. So with that, Ohio State, Ball State, and Loyola were tri-MIVA champions. By way of tiebreaker, surprisingly, Ball State was the number 1 seed of the MIVA tournament. Loyola is the 2 seed, and then Ohio State is the 3 seed. And then Lewis is 4. They're the 4 seed. They actually tied with Purdue Fort Wayne, and then Purdue Fort Wayne is the 5 seed. 6 seed. Oh, and also Lindenwood tied with Purdue Fort Wayne and Lewis, as Lindenwood was the 6 seed, so they'll draw Ohio State. 7 seed is McKendree, and I guess they'll draw Loyola. And then 8 seed is Quincy. They get to draw Ball State. So this MIVA tournament's going to be very interesting. So 1 through 3 is so much up for grabs. And Ball State is kind of in the best position. Though, against Lewis, I think Lewis could be a matchup problem for the Cardinals, just because Lewis took Ball State to 5 sets both times. So if I'm Ball State, I'm kind of hoping Purdue Fort Wayne wins that matchup. Though in-state rivalries are so tough to predict, but you never know. We'll see what happens. So moving to the Big West Conference on Friday, we had Long Beach State taking on CSUN. Now, I was actually getting updates on this matchup, and believe it or not, I saw that Long Beach State was down 2-0. They were down 27-25, 25-22 to CSUN. It was actually in Northridge, so I was not too surprised, just because I said Northridge is not a team they want to overlook. And honestly, credit to Northridge. They've had a great season. I know they've lost 6 in a row, but their record does not reflect the actual turnaround that this team has had. And I was thinking, this could be something interesting, because if Long Beach State loses, then Hawaii's in the driver's seat going forward, because Hawaii and Long Beach State are tied atop the Big West Conference standings. However, Hawaii has the tiebreaker, head-to-head tiebreaker over Long Beach State due to more points scored between the two teams in the series. The two won the same number of sets, and the two beat one another one time, so it goes to points. It doesn't go to like third place team and whatnot. So just gotta clear that up. Anyway, so third set, Long Beach State starts to pick up their play. They win the third set 25-17. Fourth set, it's a battle, but Long Beach State emerges victorious, winning 25-21. Then in set 5, Long Beach State was able to pull that fifth set out. They won it 15-19 or 15-9. And they avoided the upset on the road, so good for Long Beach State. And Clark Godbold was just fantastic. He had 32 kills. Long Beach State as a team had 81 kills, which is just mind-blowing. And they had 58 digs. 4 players had double-digit digs. Mason Briggs had 18 digs. Spencer Olivier had 12 digs. Aiden Knipe had 10 digs. Sotiris Shapanis, 10 digs. Olivier and Shane Holdaway each had 14 kills, so Shapanis had 13 kills. It was just a great turnaround, and I think Alan Knipe, I did see that Alan Knipe kind of brought in Grant Maroki in at middle blocker, so I think he kind of shuffled in Grant Maroki for what's his face? Simon Torwey. Actually, Simon Torwey isn't even on the roster, so I don't know what happened with Simon. Oh no, he did play. He only played 2 sets, so I assume that maybe Simon wasn't having the best match, and this was kind of Alan Knipe's philosophy. Like, if a player isn't like doing the best, then he'll probably go to. He has other players on standby, so there's that right there. It's kind of like when Spencer Olivier was struggling against Loyola, and then he went to Nathan Harlan. And Nathan Harlan was basically the guy that keyed the turnaround. He was the straw that stirred the drink. As for CSUN, oh, by the way, Long Beach State hit 384. Like, Long Beach State was doing everything right, except for serving. They missed 20 serves and they only had 1 ace. So, big oof. And they only had 5.5 blocks as a team. So, big oof right there. But they did everything else correct. Also, Aiden Knipe had 66 assists, as he also surpassed the 2,000 assist mark in Long Beach State history, or in his career, so that was great stuff. Also, Long Beach State had 14 kills in that 5th set, so all but 1 point was a kill from Long Beach State. So, yeah, Long Beach State was not missing from the attack. For CSUN, they were led by Kyle Hobus, who had 14 kills, Griffin Walters had 13 kills, and Lorenzo Bertozzi had 10 kills. CSUN hit 238, and they did have 13 blocks, but that's kind of where the buck stops in terms of their decent stats. I just feel that Long Beach State kind of made the adjustments to start playing better after that 2nd set, and I just really think that threw CSUN for a loop. And what was worse is that CSUN just looked completely out of it in the 2nd match. That could be because that Long Beach State had a better game plan for CSUN, or maybe because Long Beach State is so much better at home. But overall, I kind of expected a little better from the 2nd matchup, or at least CSUN could have pushed it to at least 4. But Long Beach State, they're the real deal. Then also in the Big West, we had round 1 between Hawaii and UC Irvine. So the first 2 sets were basically just sets of runs. Hawaii had a late run, which led them to winning set 1, 25-16. UC Irvine had a run, which led them to leading and winning set 2, 25-17. Then set 3, it was fairly tight. It looked like Hawaii was going to cruise their way to winning set 3, but then Irvine eventually tied up at 23 apiece. Then it was nervous time in the Stan Sheriff Center. Fortunately for Hawaii, they have this thing called really good players, and they utilize them very well, and they won that 3rd set 25-23. Then the 4th set, Hawaii was able to get the job done that 4th set. Had a little bit of a scare, but they were able to defeat UC Irvine in that 4th set 25-22 and win the match 3-1. Excuse me a second. Sorry about that. Just still having to battle these allergies, and it's really frustrating. So if my voice doesn't sound up to snuff, no pun intended, I apologize. Anyway, Hawaii was led by Dimitrios Mouchilas, who had 23 kills. I know people call him Demi, but I just feel so empowered when I call him Dimitrios. It just feels so invigorating. That's just how I feel about it. And Spiros Chakas had 14 kills. Jazz Galloway had 9 kills. Guillermo Voss and Cole Hoagland each had 6 kills. Hawaii hit 451. This just is the great extent of how good Hawaii is. And UC Irvine hit 396. Yet Hawaii said anything you could do, we could do better. And my goodness, Hawaii just did everything better than UC Irvine. Except for probably digging. Like, UC Irvine, the blocking was what really was the problem for UC Irvine. Like, UC Irvine did not block the ball well. They had 3 blocks as a team. Hawaii had at least 10. And I guess I will give credit to both teams. Their serving was pretty much dead even for the most part. Hawaii just missed one more serve, but meh. UC Irvine was led by Francesco Sani, who had 19 kills. Hilaire Heno had 14 kills. Cole Gillis had 12 kills. And Doug Dahm had 10 kills. I'm glad UC Irvine went with the distributive package and not the whole let's feed the ball to Francesco Sani and see if he could actually will our team to victory. Because if you're going to have that, your one guy better be on his A game. But that just wasn't the case. I mean, it was a good plan, but unfortunately, Hawaii was just ready for it. And then Hawaii won the second matchup in straight sets, so there's that. Jumping over to the MPSF on Friday and on Saturday, we had Stanford defeating Grand Canyon. In the first matchup, Stanford spanked Grand Canyon. The first two sets were both 25-17, and what was common in both sets was that Grand Canyon never led, and there were no ties. That was how serious Stanford was. I don't know what's wrong with Grand Canyon. I don't know if they have a player injured or something. I don't know if Stanford really needed this matchup. I don't know if Coach Coasty basically told them this is how freaking serious this matchup is. I don't know if Grand Canyon is still reeling from that series loss to UCLA, but it's like they got stomped on in that first set. And then the third set was a little bit more competitive, but Stanford just won at 25-20. Stanford was led by Kevin Lamp, who had 11 kills. Will Rotman had 9 kills. As a team, Stanford hit 397, which was darn right impressive. They kind of cooled off as the match progressed, but hey, that's still pretty darn good. Grand Canyon was led by Christian Janke and Jackson Hickman, who each had 8 kills. Yeah, they had Camden Gianni, and Nicholas Light was the setter. I don't know. It's like, am I missing something here? Like, why did Grand Canyon look like dog do? They only hit 122 in the match. In sets 1 and 3, Grand Canyon hit under 100. That's not the team that I expected. Like, Grand Canyon has really not looked the same ever since that Concordia loss. I'm sorry, but Grand Canyon is just not the same Grand Canyon team that we all thought was going to be a possible dark horse to challenge the likes of Long Beach State, UC Irvine, UCLA, Penn State, or Hawaii. They just aren't. The second matchup at least kind of showed them a little bit more fight as we welcome Davidson Crooks. Also, I'll get to Larry B's comments in the live chat room a little bit later, but for Grand Canyon, they still lost the first set 25-21. Second set, they narrowly escaped with that second set 25-23. Third set, Stanford won at 25-18. Fourth set, Grand Canyon won at 25-22. And then the fifth set, Stanford inched away. Well, they didn't trail, though it was tied 3 times. But they won the fifth set 15-10 as Stanford won the series. And they put themselves in a very interesting situation here. So if for some reason Stanford manages to win at least one more game, well, actually, here's the thing. I think Stanford's in a very good position because even if they lose both matchups to BYU this weekend, Stanford has the tiebreaker over what's their face, Grand Canyon, and that would mean that Stanford's the higher seed. So as long as Pepperdine wouldn't have the same record as Stanford, which is probably not going to happen. No offense to Pepperdine, of course. They're playing UCLA though, so are we really going to bet against UCLA? No. Stanford is probably going to be the 3 seed. Grand Canyon's probably the 4 seed, so they'll probably see UCLA in the semifinals, which could be interesting. But that's assuming if, hence the word if, Pepperdine doesn't shock the world and then Stanford just gets rickrolled against BYU on the road. Because BYU is such a tough place to win at. Anyway, box scores for Stanford GCU round 2. Stanford was led by Ethan Hill, who had 15 kills. Will Rotman had 14 kills. Nate Gates, 13 kills. Kevin Lamp, 12 kills. As a team, Stanford hit 358, which was pretty darn impressive. Even when Grand Canyon hit 381, it was still pretty impressive. Like, heck, Grand Canyon had pretty much every statistic on lock that was better than them outside of Diggs, which they nearly got outdug by 3. And then service errors. Service aces. They only had 1 service ace, while Stanford had 8, which, if you're going to beat Stanford on the road, you're going to need more than 1 service ace. I'm just saying, GCU. Grand Canyon was led by Camden Gianni and Jackson Hickman, both having 14 kills. Christian Jenke had 13 kills. Cameron Thorne, 8 kills. Unfortunately, it just wasn't enough. Grand Canyon regular season is over, as now it's just the waiting game. It's not a matter of who they're going to play, or when they're going to play, or if they're going to play. It's who they're going to play. Like, they could draw Pepperdine in the first round. Pepperdine was that one team that handed them their first loss of the season. They also went 5 with them both times. I don't really think Concordia is going to catch up to what's-their-face, Grand Canyon. So certainly it's not going to be Concordia or USC as their first-round opponent. Like, the only way Grand Canyon catches up or moves up in the standings is if BYU loses twice to Stanford. And heck, I don't even... Actually, no, that could happen, because if Stanford beats BYU twice, Stanford's the 2 seed. BYU is tied with Grand Canyon, and since Grand Canyon beat BYU both times, Grand Canyon and BYU would flip-flop, and then Grand Canyon would be the 3 seed, and then BYU would be the 4 seed. I know that's a lot of bracketology, but that's kind of how it goes. Anyway, the last matchup, notable NCAA men's volleyball matchups to go over, is my team, NCAA men's volleyball team of the week for week 14, Princeton and Charleston. So, Princeton, oh my goodness. So, Princeton did not look good starting out. Well, I saw them, and they were so underrated. And I'll tell you this, Sam Schweisky does an excellent job with this program, and that dude needs to get his flowers. And honestly, I'll say this about Princeton, they're that one team that struggles so early, but when it comes to conference play, if they're playing the best volleyball, that's a team you do not want to face, especially come EIVA tournament time. So, for Princeton, they beat Charleston twice on the road, and that's why I gave them the team of the week honor. I could have given it to Stanford, but it's like I gave that honor to UCLA for the exact same reason. Except UCLA beat Grand Canyon on the road, and that was a big matchup. Stanford, I could have given them that honor just because that was a big matchup for them, but it's like they beat Grand Canyon at their home court. That's kind of, I wouldn't say that kind of loses points, but it's like Princeton just hasn't had that big season that Stanford has. Like, Stanford had a lot of expectations. Princeton, I wouldn't say so much expectations. Like, Princeton is now starting to peak when it truly matters. And these 2 wins over Charleston, yes, Princeton beat Charleston twice, has Princeton in second place in the EIVA. So this happened on Friday, where Princeton swept Charleston 25-22, 25-19, and 25-20. Princeton was led by Ben Harrington, who had 13 kills, Brady Wedbush, 10 kills, James Hartley, 8 kills, Nero Omine, 7 kills. Princeton as a team hit 310, while holding Charleston to only 183, as Charleston didn't even have one player crack double digits in terms of kills, as they were led by Lachlan Bray, who had 9 kills, which isn't all that great. But I'll give Charleston this, they did outblock Princeton as a team, so that's decent. They didn't have any service aces, and Princeton outdug them, so there's that. But overall for Princeton, that was a big win on the road. The second win was a little bit more extended. It was a little bit more dramatic as well. So first set, 18 ties, 8 lead changes. Princeton grinds it out and wins that first set 25-22. Second set, 11 ties, 4 lead changes. Charleston grinds it out and wins it 25-22. Then the third set, 14 ties, 4 lead changes, and eventually Princeton wins that in extra points, 27-25. Then that fourth set, Princeton squeaks away with that fourth set win. Only 7 ties and 4 lead changes, but they needed all those ties and all those points to win that fourth set 26-24 and eventually knock off Charleston. And now they are ahead of them in second place. And honestly, I think Princeton might have clinched second place. Actually, no. That's not true. Princeton has not clinched second place just because Charleston has 2 more matches, but they're at Princeton. Oh, I'm sorry, they're at Penn State. My apologies. Charleston plays at Penn State, and that's going to be a boatload of the matchup right there. Like, with Charleston losing, that means Penn State has clinched the EIVA regular season championship, and they are the number 1 seed of the EIVA tournament. So, for that to happen with only 2 games remaining, and I don't even think Penn State played last week, unless I'm mistaken. I could be wrong, though, but either way, Penn State pretty much, these last 2 games for Penn State are probably for like rankings purposes or for like at-large purposes. Anyway, Princeton was led by Ben Harrington, who had 17 kills. Though the 13 errors were a little bit glaring, he at least got some help as Nirowu Omine had 10 kills, Brittany Wedbush had 9 kills, Ryan Venna 8 kills. Ryan Venna came up big. That dude is a beast. Princeton didn't hit the best. They only hit 179. But that's because Charleston blocked really well. Like, Charleston had over 20 blocks. They had 21 and a half blocks to be exact, compared to Princeton's 11 as a team. Charleston, on the other hand, they only hit 54. That's a big ouch right there. And their best set in terms of hitting came in set 1, where they hit 111, as Charleston was led by Garrett Schnitger, who had 15 kills. He actually was very efficient for Charleston, as he had a hitting percentage of .333, despite the 5 hitting errors. But overall, it was just not Charleston's night. Princeton had 30 service errors compared to Charleston's 13, but at least they had 7 aces. But Princeton did everything in its power to win that match, and honestly, that's kind of what matters. Like, you could play the ugliest game in your career, but as long as you're getting that W, that's what truly matters. So that's that for all of the NCAA men's volleyball matchups to watch for in Week 14. Jumping over to the AVCA men's volleyball coaches poll, we have 15 through 11, this time I didn't forget, Charleston at 15, CSUN at 14, USC at 13, Loyola at 12, and Ohio State at 11. 10 through 6 consist of Ball State at 10, Pepperdine at 9, Stanford at 8, Grand Canyon at 7, and BYU at 6. 5 through 1 are the usual suspects. UC Irvine at 5, Long Beach State at 4, Penn State at 3, UCLA at 2, and your still number 1 team in the AVCA Men's National Collegiate Coaches Poll is Hawaii. So, 1 through 5 was basically, it didn't change. 6 down had some changes. BYU and GCU flip-flopped. Pepperdine and Stanford flip-flopped. Ball State, Ohio State, and Loyola pretty much flip-flopped. CSUN, Charleston, well, I think Charleston went down, but honestly, there was a lot of movement from 6 downwards, so I'm surprised no one dropped out just because Charleston lost those 2 matchups. But Princeton's playing some darn good volleyball as of late, and honestly, I really think that Charleston, I was surprised, but it's like, Princeton's just so darn underrated, dude. Like, you don't want to, that's the team that every team should avoid in EIVA tournament play, so we'll see what happens going forward. Alright, so that's that for the NCAA men's volleyball side of things. So we'll jump to some NCAA beach volleyball, and I'm gonna do my best with this just because it's like, I didn't really get a chance to watch too much NCAA women's beach volleyball, But I did see some upsets. One moment, please. Sorry about that. Had a little bit of a cough. I did see that LMU pulled the upset against Florida State, which was darn right impressive. So, in some of these matches, normally all 5 matches get to be played out, but if there is one team that wins 3 pairs or 1 match, then they win the duel altogether, and then the duel just ends instantly. That's basically where it ends. So, like, for example, LMU won the duel 3-1 as their number 2, 3, and 5 pair basically wound up winning, and then their number 1 pair lost. Guess I should make note of that. And we don't even care about the number 4 pair. The number 4 pair stops playing. It's just a DNF, which is did not finish. And then basically the celebration goes on with LMU winning. So basically for LMU, that's a huge win just because Florida State, they came off of a big win over UCLA. So for LMU, they could be a sneaky good team. You never want to underestimate the Lions. Like, those Lions are pretty good. And they also beat, and the thing about Florida State is that they also beat LSU, which is a very good win, if you ask me. So, and then for Arizona, they were able to upset number 10 Stanford, which was darn right impressive. So, good win for Arizona. Like, Arizona came into that match unranked, and then Stanford was number 10. So, good on the Wildcats for winning that one. So, we'll see what happens going forward when it comes to this week's matches. I know TCU plays UCLA, which is big time right there. I can't wait to see that matchup. And they also play Pepperdine, but it's like UCLA, TCU. And then after that, they've got the 2CSA conference tournament. And that's what truly matters, which they get to play Florida State again. They also get to play LSU, and then South Carolina, and then all those other teams from the South. So I did get word from my guest as of this recording. Matt Prosser did just get home. So we will be bringing him on momentarily. For right now, let's get into some AVP, just because I want to get through that, and then we'll go to a commercial break, and then we'll bring on our guest, Matt Prosser, to discuss some NVA, as well as some Long Beach State men's volleyball, and some Orange County Stunners. Alright, so the AVP has taken us to the Big Easy, aka New Orleans, Louisiana, as the New Orleans, Louisiana Pro Series, or the NOLA Open Pro Series, is basically the next destination for the AVP. So, I'm really excited to see this tournament, and of course I'll get to see this tournament. I mean, yes, I'll have to contend with watching UC Irvine and Long Beach State on Friday or on Saturday, but it's like Sunday I will for sure be watching this just because I don't think I'll have anything to do on Sunday, but I digress. Anyway, so the main draw pairs for the AVP on the women's side are Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng making their AVP debut. Brandy Wilkerson and Melissa Humana Paredes, the last tournament winner, which was won in the Miami Beach Open, or the Miami Pro Series. Betsy Flint and Julia Scholes. Then we've got Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss. The hometown heroes right there. That could be the pair to watch for. I feel that could be the pair to win, just because it's home court advantage. Those two are former LSU players. You cannot disregard Team Tiger. We'll see, though. Anyway, continuing on. Sarah Sponsel, Therese Cannon, Sarah Pavin, Emily Stockman, Carly Can, Zana Muno, Carly Skojit, Gina Urango, Larissa Maestrini, Lily Maestrini, Katie Dickens, Jen Ketty, Caitlin Leary, Deanna Kraft, and Savvy Simo and Tony Rodriguez, who is also a former LSU Tiger, so she kind of gets a little home court advantage or home field advantage, but we'll see. So that's kind of your main draw participants. Everyone else is a qualifier or a hopeful, so yeah. As for the men, the main draw participants or the main draw pairs consist of Kame Schalk and Tri Bourne as the top seed, and then behind him are Timothy Brewster and Kyle Friend, Billy Allen and Troy Field, Roberto Rodriguez and Dave Palm, Celia Tucker and Paul Lottman, Chase Frischman and Cody Caldwell. I'll be talking about him in a little bit next segment. Hagen Smith and Bill Kolinsky, Jake Dydrich, Tim Baumgren, Evan Corey, Logan Weber, Travis Mewerder, and Avery Drost. New partner for Avery Drost. Sean Cook and David Lee, and Phil Dalhauser and John Sutton. So those are all your main draw participants. Everyone else is a qualifier, meaning they got to win their way on Friday in order to get to the main draw on Saturday and on Sunday. So that's pretty much that for the AVP. I am excited for this because it's a Pro Series tournament, and while it's not... Sorry, a little frog in my throat. While it's not as big as the Gold Series, it still is points, and it's still a tournament, and you play to win the game. So there's that right there, and I am very excited to see some AVP Beach Volleyball, just because it's volleyball too. It deserves some love. Alright, and I also really want to get back into the beach scene. I have been giving too much love to the NVA and the NCAA men's volleyball. I really got to try to be a little bit more on it when it comes to NCAA Beach Volleyball and AVP, so we'll see. But for right now, let's take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we will have our guest, Matt Prosser, with us to discuss some Long Beach State men's volleyball. We'll discuss some Orange County Stunners, we'll discuss some NVA, and we'll discuss some of the matchups that happened with the Stunners last weekend. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter, at any time. Be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely do check out all of our amazing shows, such as Let's Whine About DMV Sports, The Show That Never Sleeps, and Sin City Sports. But with all that said and done, let us introduce our guest. My guest is the head coach of the Orange County Stunners, and he is also a former Long Beach State men's volleyball player, and he has a couple of records set. And also, you could hear my guest calling Long Beach State men's volleyball matches every week, such as this week when Long Beach State plays UC Irvine, and he's just an overall great guy. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Matt Prosser. How you doing, Matt?
Hey, Teran. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for that intro. Well said. Thank you for that.
You are very welcome. And I had to get that little plug to you just because you do an awesome job on the call on ESPN Plus, and it's just fantastic having you around. And I like seeing you at Long Beach State. So, with all that said and done.
I appreciate that. I really enjoy calling those games and being back in the Pyramid. Obviously spent a lot of time there as a player and a coach, and now as a broadcaster is a lot of fun to be able to bring what we're seeing in the Pyramid to people that can't make it there in person and watch on ESPN Plus.
Excellent. So with all that said and done, let us get on into our interview. But first and foremost, just in case the fun police is listening, these are the thoughts and opinions of myself, Teran Rodriguez, and of Matt Prosser, and not the thoughts and opinions of IE Sports Radio, Long Beach State, ESPN Plus, or any other third or fourth party organizations, especially not the NVA or the Orange County Stunners. The disclaimer is in the description. But with all that said and done, Matt, the floor is yours. Tell everyone who you are, what you do, and basically who Matt Prosser is.
Okay, well, my name is Matt Prosser. Born in Ventura, California. I've been living on the West Coast my entire life. Started playing volleyball when I was 13. I played pretty much every other sport growing up, and I was taller but skinnier than pretty much everybody else. And my dad played volleyball for fun in a local adult rec league, and asked him to teach me how to play volleyball in our front yard, and the rest is history. I was hooked from day one. That was about 1993 maybe, and got to play obviously high school volleyball in Ventura, played club volleyball for Seaside Volleyball Club down in San Diego, graduated high school in 97. We won Junior Olympics that same summer. And then was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to play at Long Beach State, like you mentioned. Started there for 4 years as a middle blocker. I was team captain. I was a 3-time All-American, and we lost in the NCAA finals in 1999 to BYU, which was a great experience, even though we didn't, finish the way that we all wanted to finish. But that's just the nature of sport. And after I was done playing there, had a little shoulder surgery, and I worked through that. Then got to play in Europe for a season. then got to come back to Long Beach to coach. Did that for about 4 years, and then went on to play professional beach volleyball in the AVP for about 14 seasons. Got one victory, lost in another final in Hermosa Beach, and then started coaching outside of that, and have been on board with the Stunners now. This is my second season as the head coach of the OC Stunners. So that's a quick little rundown on my volleyball resume and history lesson, going over 30 years now, Teran. That's a big number to say, but
nice.
It's been good.
Very nice. You've been playing volleyball for as long as I've been born. So I understand you've broken a couple records, and you still hold some of those records. I want to say it's the record for best hitting percentage. If so, can you elaborate on those records that you still hold dear at Long Beach State?
Well, you should have brought my dad onto the broadcast here, because he knows those records better than I do. But we do have to say the disclaimer: this was during the side-out scoring era. It was before rally scoring, so games were longer, right? Middle attackers got maybe a few more sets, but those, I do believe the single match highest hitting percentage I hold from a match against LMU, who doesn't even have a program anymore, back in '99. And then I think I'm top 3 for career hitting percentage at Long Beach State. My college career did cover both, so I came in and it was side-out scoring, best of 5, games to 15 points. And then going into my junior year, it changed over to the libero and the rally scoring and, that whole new system. So it was a little transitional period there, but fortunate enough that I had some great teammates. I had some great coaches. Alan Knipe recruited me. He's obviously still coaching there. And I get the opportunity to speak with him, when I'm broadcasting the matches and go to practices to watch and prep. But I couldn't have gotten those records without my teammates or the coaches or the support from, everyone at Long Beach State, athletic trainers, academic advisors, professors, and then obviously my family as well.
Humble, definitely humble, and definitely want to give all those thank yous and shout outs. So, all right. So jumping on over to the NVA. So when did you first hear about the NVA, and who contacted you? And tell us, outside of coaching, what is your role when it comes to the NVA?
Yeah, so I think it was about 3 to 4 years ago. I don't remember exactly what year it was. It was probably 2019. Nick England, out of the blue, contacted me about broadcasting for the NVA. And it was sort of actually passed on to me from someone else over at Long Beach State that had a conflict of interest and couldn't broadcast for the NVA because they were already under contract or had a non-compete, I believe, with ESPN at the time, which fortunately kind of opened a door for me. I was doing the broadcasting at Long Beach State, and I got in touch with Nick. That was the first year that they were going to be doing the full season. And they brought me on board to do the broadcasting. That season kind of got cut short because of COVID, and we had that event, I believe it was November of 2019 up in Utah, and got to go do the broadcasting for that. And ever since then, it's now, we're going on my third, I guess that would be my 4th season with the broadcasting team of Ira Thor and Noah Chast and also Nick England, and we've got a really good crew there, trying to bring a good product to the viewers and supporting professional men's volleyball in the United States. I think that's the goal for everybody involved in NBA, and accessibility is a big part of it, and we want to bring, that onto the broadcasts, and it's been really fun to be a part of it. It's, again, I'll do anything that I can to promote men's volleyball in the United States and get more people watching it and get more exposure to people that don't know about it or don't have access to it and might find that they really enjoy the sport, kind of like I did as a kid.
Yeah, same here. Like, we all need to do our part to grow the game and basically use the hashtag NCAA Men's Volleyball just to keep our sport going and basically just to help grow the game and just help grow the NVA. I basically tweeted out yesterday that the NVA deserves a lot of notoriety just because these are fun matches and this needs some recognition. So, as for the Stunners, so obviously we got to talk about the Stunners. So, here last year was obviously a great season. So, let's talk a little about last year and how the playoffs. Your team was down 2-1. They were down 22-18, and it looked like the Stingers were about to advance to the semifinals. But then Shane Beamer goes on that serving run, and then suddenly 22-18 was a thing of the past, and you win that set 25-23, and then you just steamroll your way through winning that fifth set. What were the emotions going through your mind in that fourth and fifth set?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I mean, you did a great job describing that moment. I mean, it was, resiliency is sort of the first thing that comes to mind for, the guys on the team that you never can give up, until the final point. You could be down by 3 or 4 points and you can go on a run like Shane did, and Shane's got a very dangerous serve, a pretty unique kind of hybrid jump float that when he hits it right, it has a lot of movement on it, a lot of like side-to-side sort of lateral movement, but then also a lot of pace behind it. And fortunately for us, he found his groove and got us all even on that one, and we were able to steal that set. And then, the fifth game, I mean, we know that anything can happen to anybody in set number 5 in any match. And, the Stingers are a very solid team. They've got a lot of great players, and we were definitely lucky to get away with that win. But it just shows, how resilient the Stunners players are, and, the never give up attitude. And you got to just play all the way through that final point, no matter what the situation is, and see if you can just kind of make something happen, right?
Right.
Stay on task.
Mm-hmm. So, and then going into the semifinals, you had to face the big giant. You had to face the New Jersey Freedom, who was undefeated. Now, I did know that they were without a good chunk of their roster, like Ian Kapp, I think Matt Fertier, if I'm not mistaken. If not, it was someone else. Maybe it was Cyphers. But you managed to stun, no pun intended, the number 1 seed and advance to the finals. Like, how are you all able to basically be so gutty against a team that had been so consistent, even against one of the top faces in the NVA?
Yeah, we had played them earlier in the season, and we lost to them because they were 10-0 through the regular season, and obviously they're a very good team also. And I did just watch that semifinal match over the weekend in preparation for our match in event number 1 of this season, just as a refresher. And, they're a very good team. They've got some big players. They're very familiar with one another. They're a very tight team. They're very well coached as well. And, I think in that match last season, our guys just kind of found a way. I mean, we lost the first set, which is really no surprise. We're not really known as the fastest starting team. We have our moments, but, we lost the first set and then won the next 3. And I think anytime that you play New Jersey Freedom, you have to expect really long rallies. They're a great defensive team. They've got some really big blockers. They touch a lot of balls on the block, and then they're able to get good attacks out of those on the counterattack, which is, a very difficult thing to kind of mitigate and work through. But we had, Corey Shavers at the time was playing outside for us. He was really good out of the back row. We had Matt Hilling on the left, and let's see. We also had Jair Santiago at opposite last year. He had a nice match in that semifinal. He's obviously with Puerto Rico now, and we have Damani Lenore, who had a great weekend. But, I don't think anyone expected us really to get to the finals last year based on how the season began. But and then obviously going up against Team Freedom and how solid they were all season long. But in the semifinals, again, not to be a broken record, anything can happen, right? It's just 12 really good volleyball players, 2 really good volleyball teams going at it, and taking shots at each other, and whoever can hang in there and stay on their feet is going to get the win. And fortunately for us, we were able to do that last season.
And with that win in the semifinals, that marked the 3rd straight finals appearance for the Stunners. And honestly, I wasn't ultimately surprised, just because the Stunners, they find ways to make magic. They're just that team of destiny. I just don't know what it is, but they're just so incredible and resilient. Unfortunately, in the final, I don't mean to say the word unfortunately to discredit the Ramblers, but unfortunately, the Ramblers kind of derailed your championship hopes in terms of repeating, and you wound up falling to them in a straight sets match. But what were some positives in that match, and basically, what can you take away from last season going into this season?
Well, I think anytime you're playing in a championship match, you can learn really just a ton of good information about yourself, about your team, about your teammates, about being in that environment. And for us, being in the finals, the Ramblers were an extremely strong team last year, and they executed really, really well in every aspect of the game. For us, again, I think it was a great moment for us to be in the championship match. Like I said, I don't think we were really expected to be there when you looked at our record or maybe how the season started. But that shows that, we got better throughout the season, which is, important for us, and sort of one of our philosophies is we want to be playing our best volleyball at the end of the season and sort of, peak when it's the time to do so, which is, in that playoff weekend. But again, it kind of comes down to that old cliche. You learn more from a loss than you do from a win. And I think everyone on our team is able to take something away from that match that they can do better. They can prepare better, whether it's, in what they did leading up to that match or just even on the day of, or during that match, to make them better volleyball players, better teammates, things like that, to prepare them for the next opportunity that they have to be in a situation such as playing in the finals or a semifinal match, which is sometimes just as massively as important, because you can't make a final without winning a semifinal. Mm-hmm. So you can't really look past that either. So it was a good learning experience. I mean, for us, our setter Nacho from Argentina, he had a great run at the end of the season. Didn't play a lot leading up to it, but came in, stepped in, took advantage of the opportunity, and really did a good job. Just good quality leadership by all the players, and yeah, it's a group of guys that really they can sense the opportunity that's in front of them, and they typically step up and get after it. And that's what you want to see from a team of veteran, experienced players like the guys we have.
And it was a great run for the Stunners, and hats off to you all. It's never easy losing in the final, but I will say this, making the final for the 3rd straight year, you have to be pretty darn consistent. It just really is amazing. And the fact that the Stunners had to face the number 1 seed in all of those seasons, well, actually I'm not sure about the 2020 season in Utah, but it's like, I really just am impressed with how consistent the Stunners can be. I even put that in my NVA preview of how consistent the Stunners are in terms of making the final. So, to this year, we actually have a show on IE Sports Radio called 3 and Out, and we have this thing called 8 Divisions in 8 Days, and the head honcho, Larry B., is in the chat room. I want to give him a shout out, and I'm going to kind of do this his way in terms of how he does it in terms of 8 divisions in 8 days. So for your team, the Orange County Stunners. So in terms of your team this year, you return a good chunk of your team. Like, looking at your roster for this year, you've got quite a bit of your team back from last year. You've got Shane Beamer, you've got Corey Chavers, you've got Nick West, you've got Damani Lenore, you've got Matt Hilling, you've got a bunch of the band back from last year. Tell me, what's it like having a bunch of those players back from last year?
Well, it's definitely important to have a core group of players that are returning, especially from, 3 straight championship appearances, like you said. Shane Zimmer, Nick West, Matt Hilling, Kevin Gear, those 4 are kind of our core group at the moment. We do have some new additions with Cody Caldwell at the outside position. Damani Lenore, this is his first season with us at the opposite position. He came over from LA Blaze after last season, and he made a pretty good impact right away for us. And then, we have Dylan Shigakawa has been with the team for a few years at libero. Also, Huing Ding is also, a new libero for us from China, so he's been a welcome addition. And, we've got a couple other pieces. Corey Chavers will be coming back from Greece for us in the next probably, 6 weeks. I don't know if it'll be in time for Event 2, but most likely Event 3. And we're still trying to make a couple more moves and bring in a few more players and pieces, before the deadline here and just make our roster stronger. You also saw Eddie Mashikian's on our team now from Southern Exposure. He was with us this weekend in a little bit of a limited role, but I expect to see his contributions continue to help make us a better squad. Oh, and Logan Zodovich. We can't forget him. He's our setter. He played at UC Irvine. This is his first season with the or the NVA. And he came in and he set 2 really nice matches. Logan's a really hard worker. He's very dedicated. I actually had the opportunity to coach Logan when he was in high school back in 2013, along with another NBA player, Ryan Schickling. So that's kind of full circle for him and I to be working together, and a fun experience. But we're still working on a lot of things with our offensive system that's going to make us pretty dangerous, I think. And like I said, we're still a work in progress, trying to peak at the right time.
Now, I also saw on the roster that Nick Amato's on there. Is he going to be back or no? Or is that an error?
That is not an error. Nick has practiced with us a couple of times. He's coaching at Golden West Junior College in Huntington Beach, so he has some responsibilities that he has to fulfill there before he can devote enough time to really make an impact on our roster. But he has a spot. He's been with our team for 3 or 4 seasons, so he still holds that spot, and he will help us when we need him to.
And he was on that championship team back in 2021. So having Nick Amato back is definitely going to be a plus for the Stunners. So unfortunately, you did have to, like you mentioned, you did have to say goodbye to a couple of players, such as Jair Santiago and Randy Ramirez, but you do retain most of your roster. How tough is it losing Jair Santiago to the Puerto Rico Pythons, and how tough is it losing Randy Ramirez?
Yeah, obviously Jair is an impact player for every team that he's on. Merely his stature, 6'10", he's a big guy. Absolutely hits the snot out of the ball from the right side and the left side and the inline. So, it was tough to let him go. It was something that happened in the off season. I think he's excited to be with the Pythons now. And it was a very interesting dynamic that we got to play against him and his new team in both of our team's first matches of the 2023 season. He had a great match. That was Friday night. We, were able to get the win over the Puerto Rico Pythons. But, Jair, like I said, he's an impact player, and he made a big impact for the Stunners, and he's going to do the same for the Pythons going forward. And Randy is down in Puerto Rico as well. I think he might be kind of taking a break from volleyball. I think he's just, focusing on some work and another career path that is what he's doing right now. And, we had to make a move, and that's where we picked up Logan. And Nacho's coming back for us as well from Argentina, but he's finishing up his season I believe he's playing in Spain. And so we'll have him back in a few weeks as well.
So before we get on into that Python Stunners matchup, I do want to talk to you about Cody Caldwell. So I actually had the honor of seeing Cody Caldwell play volleyball back in high school at Newport Harbor, and he obviously won a national championship with Loyola back in 2015. And now he's also playing at the AVP. He's playing this week in the New Orleans, Louisiana Pro Series. So what's it like having Cody Caldwell back in the hardwood after he had he currently is playing beach?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have Cody on the team. He brings a lot of experience. You know, he just played over in India in their professional indoor season along with Matt Hilling on a different team. And he's a very, strong and tenured and experienced indoor player. He's been playing on the beach for a few seasons as well. He won an event last summer with David Lee on the AVP tour. I think it was in Atlantic City, and he got a third place finish in Miami just a few weeks ago at the Miami Beach Open. And he's making an impact on the beach, and I don't blame him. He's got good size. He brings a really exciting style of volleyball to the AVP and the beach scene. I know he wants to do both, play NVA and AVP, and I can't blame him for that. So we're going to be flexible with our schedules, and he's going to be able to do both because there's not a lot of conflicts. But, he brings some good size and some good range to the left side for us and some really great passing, which is something that we need to have, consistently good passing.
All right, now jumping over to the matchups that you had this weekend. So starting with the Pythons matchup against you all. So the first two sets you win 25-21 and 25-16. Then in the third set you have match point, but then the Pythons eventually win that set, and then they win the fourth set, and then you eventually squeak out that fifth set. How did it feel facing off against your former player Jair Santiago, and what were basically like the emotions going into that first match?
I know that both teams were really excited to play it. Obviously, after a long off season, and everyone goes their own ways and plays, professionally in places, whether it's overseas or in Puerto Rico or wherever they get the opportunity to play or not, and they stay home and just think about getting ready for this 2023 season. It was an emotional moment for all of those players over the weekend, and our first match, the last match of the night on Friday, we played our first two sets were really good, and the majority of set number 3 was also really good for us. Like you said, we had one serve at match point. We didn't score, and Puerto Rico came back to win the third set, and then took the fourth set pretty easily. They had a lot of good momentum on their side, and momentum and emotions, is such an important part of volleyball that they had both of those going in their favor heavily through set 4. And fortunately in set 5, I think we went on a little service run. We were able to build, a 3 or 4 point lead. And that's a nice cushion to have in the fifth set that we were able to kind of side out. And then I think take the match on our own service point opportunity. But, a big, a sigh of relief to get the win. We train the guys to make sure that it doesn't matter how long it takes, as long as we're, conditioned and ready and focused for the entirety of the match to pull out the win. And that was a good example of that, because we know that if you go up 2-0 on a team, you really do have to expect that third set for them to respond, and that's what the Pythons did against us. And then, it's just another kind of long battle between the two teams that we were able to get the victory with.
In that match against the Pythons, Damani Lenore, 21 kills. Cody Caldwell having himself quite the debut in the NVA, 16 kills. You even got 10 kills from Nick West and 9 kills from Matt Hilling. What can you say about the offense, and what can you say about Cody Caldwell's debut in the NVA?
Well, I think from those stats, you can tell that we had a pretty well-rounded and balanced offense And I think that's extremely important in this NVA season, is that you don't rely on one player too much, not even two players too much, but you can rely on all of your attackers. And you have that balance, because that means that your offense is running at a pretty high percentage. You have options to choose. For Logan, he was able to distribute the ball to, all of our attackers. And it gives credit to Cody and Matt and Dylan, who are doing most of the passing that kept us in that good offensive kind of rhythm and percentage. For Damani on the right side, I think he was the beneficiary of some really great matchups against who he was hitting against versus their block. And then, he is an extremely dynamic player. I mean, the guy literally can jump over the net nearly, and he came up really clutch with some big points, attacking from the right side, front row and back row. And then, Cody in his debut had a great match as well. And, he had plenty of time to go with that 5-setter. And, we really were really fortunate to have him on the team and get that good left side attack from him throughout that match.
It was a great way to open the NVA season and for you all. And it was a great way to cap off day number 1, and honestly, it was quite the thriller. You also had a thriller against, somewhat of a thriller against the New Jersey Freedom. Unfortunately, it didn't go your way as you fell in 4 sets, but let's talk about the positives. Like, you forced 2 deuce games in the sets that you did lose against them, and, obviously, they weren't at full strength, you weren't at full strength. But what were some other positives that you had in that matchup against the New Jersey Freedom?
Well, I think our guys played really well against a team that practices a lot, like they do. That group of guys works out pretty regularly. They've been, talk about a core group. They've been a core group for, I think, about the last 2 to 3 seasons. And, they're very familiar with one another. They're used to playing on the same teams with that group. And for our guys, we got 1 week of everyone in the gym practicing together. The first practice we had everyone together was last Tuesday, the Tuesday before event number 1. So, that speaks to how much potential I think we have when we're able to get more time in the training gym for preparation. And, as we go through the season again, getting back to the way that we play and peaking at the right time. Now, there are some adjustments that we definitely can take away and some changes that we need to make in order to get better against a team like, Freedom. And when you say, 2 deuce games, those games could go either way. And, I think they won the match on a let serve, trickler ace, which is a stinger of a way to lose the match. But the match wasn't lost on that 1 point. Right. There's definitely some things that we need to get better at that we'll take from it. Like I said earlier on, you learn more from a loss than you do from a win. And we definitely learned a few things about ourselves that we really have to focus on. Our defense, our blocking can be a little bit more disciplined. Our backcourt guys can dig a few more balls for us. We did a good job in that match, but I think we can dig more. And then I think Logan wasn't very happy with his performance on Sunday, and I think he's going to work super hard the rest of the season to kind of right that ship a little bit.
Now, in that match against the Freedom, we had the moment of Shane Beamer nearly having, he had a little bit of a service run, but I was thinking in my mind, are we going to get another Shane Beamer serving run miracle just like last year? Like, it was just that moment. Like, what were you thinking when Shane Beamer was going on that serving run?
Honestly, that's great. If we get a service run from any of our players, I'm really focused on what our block and defense is doing against the rotation that, the opponent is in, and making sure I see who the hitters are and where the setter is, whether it's front row or back row. Obviously, a service run of any length more than 2 points from any of our players is always going to be welcomed, right? Because that means that they're putting the serve in, they're putting it, in at a high percentage with good pace, and they're getting the opponent out of system, which is extremely important, right, for this level of volleyball. Because, if you serve too easy, teams are going to be in system the whole time, and it's going to be nearly impossible to slow them down, get a deflection, let alone a block point. So if you're able to get that pass off the net, get the other team out of system, then it'll be a lot easier on your side to make the adjustments.
And I will also say this, the Stunners have some really good serving. It's not just Shane Bremer that really serves well, but Nick West has a very deadly jump serve, so does Matt Hilling. Cody Caldwell is going to be aggressive with his serving. Like, the Stunners, in my opinion, are probably one of the most aggressive serving teams in the NVA. That's just my take, but honestly, this team really can serve the you-know-what out of the ball, and you have to have some darn good serve receive. Is that something your team prides itself on in terms of serving?
Yeah, for us, it's super important that we can consistently make a very tough and reliable serve in the court, and then when you have the ability to put your toss in that window where you can go ahead and get really aggressive with your serve, then our guys have that green light to do it. So like a server like Nick West he jump serves from the left side of the court, which is kind of unique, and changes up the angles. When his toss is right where he needs it to be, right in that sweet spot, you might as well just call that a service ace, and that's what we want our guys to do. But you got to be smart about it too. If that toss isn't where it needs to be, you got to keep it in. You got to dial it down a little bit. Still put pressure on the opponent by putting that ball in and not missing it into the net. It's okay if you miss long. At least we think it's okay if you miss long, as long as it's not hitting the back wall. But it's somewhat close to the inline to make the other team think about passing it. So it's a fine line, and then obviously having jump servers with a balance of jump float hybrid servers keeps the opponent, kind of on their toes a little bit in terms of what to expect and out of rhythm with their service reception.
Excellent. So just to put a bow on this match and pretty much this event, Matt Hilling obviously had himself 15 kills. What can you say about Matt and how he, in his veteran leadership, and how, according to Nick England, he's tied with Nick England for the longest and most tenured player in the NVA? Those were his words.
Well, I'm sure Matt and Nick can have a side conversation about who holds that title, but pretty sure Matt will have something to say about that. But yeah, Matt had a great match on Sunday. He led all scorers on our side, which was really good to see from him. He just got back from India as well, so he's still sort of recovering from that season and has been working hard to get in shape for this season. Obviously, as that sort of, veteran leader on the court, the things that he's able to do, with the ball, if the set isn't right where he needs it to be, he can go high hands off the block, he can cut it around, and, he's very dangerous in the inline as well. But really, Matt was steady in that match on Sunday and did a good job of leading the team and, just kind of being a rock in terms of his passing and then his point scoring on offense. And that's, what you need to have from someone who's been with a team for a few years and has won and has played volleyball literally all the way around the world and back again, and is a veteran leader for sure for us.
Excellent. So that's pretty much that for the Stunners matchup. So I know you pretty much, I don't know if you caught some of the other matchups, but we did have one big matchup which resulted in a stunning, I'm so sorry if I have to use that pun over and over again, but we had a stunning upset over the weekend, and that actually came at the hands of the Inland Empire Matadors beating the Las Vegas Ramblers in 5 sets. So I don't know if you caught any of that matchup. Well, it wasn't live streamed, but what can you say about that matchup and that basically that result, if anything?
Well, that to me, what really stands out about that is how high the level of volleyball is being played here in the NBA. The Matadors historically have not been a very imposing team and have not been able to really pull off any type of sort of quote-unquote upset victories over maybe sort of the higher caliber teams in the NVA. I know they've had a little bit of a revolving door in terms of players, and they've lacked some consistency probably on their roster. So it's great to see the Matadors. They've been in the practice gym with us. They've been working super hard. They've got some very high-level coaches that bring a lot of international experience to the team, on their bench now, and that's something that they're going to continue to rely upon. For the Ramblers, they're a new-look Ramblers team this year, and they brought in some new people, Felix Chapman being one of them, who's a very athletic and a huge weapon for any team that he's on. But, for the Ramblers, I think it's just a matter of time. They gotta get some practice time together with their group and find their rhythm and get used to playing with one another. But yeah, I mean, an upset for sure on paper, a great win for the Matadors, and probably a bit of a stinger for the Ramblers as they, still probably are searching kind of for their style or brand of play and a little bit of what they're all about as well.
Totally agree. And one of their players, Spencer Williams, said in the press conference, the goal isn't to win a whole lot on April 9th. The goal is to win and to play the best on July 30th or whenever the NVA finals is. And I think that's the goal for pretty much every team, including your team. So I really think that Event 1 is basically like a precursor to see where everyone is at. But then once the season starts to pick up, then we'll get to see more of these teams and how kind of these other new players are and how these play styles are, if that kind of makes sense, right?
No, I mean, I totally agree with you. Seasons championships are won in April. Championships are won in July. The foundation is still being built for pretty much every team right now, and I think you'll start to see each team definitely get exponentially better through, late May, middle to late May, all of June, and then, seeing the finish line in the distance is that championship, event in July, and that's what everyone's going for. So that the teams are going to be peaking at that right moment, and there's going to be a lot of really, really, really good volleyball being played for the NVA, during the summer.
Excellent. So moving on from event number 1 and jumping over to event 2. I know we're looking a little bit too far ahead. I think it's like 3 weeks from now. But in event 3, you have the Florida Exposure. They have gone through so many names, I promise you. The Florida Exposure, and then if I'm looking at this correctly, they also have the Chicago Untouchables. They have the Chicago Untouchables, or you all have the Chicago Untouchables on Friday, and then after that you have the Exposure on Saturday. So what will it take to beat both of those teams, as both those teams are 1-1, and they both kind of have new looks?
Yeah, both those teams, definitely have moved some players around the Untouchables. I watched them yesterday because they were playing before our match, so I got to see a look at them. They brought in a couple of different pieces that definitely made them a little bit more dynamic and explosive. I didn't get a chance to watch Exposure play. I only saw a couple of highlights, on some social media platforms. But really, it's more about us and getting better at the things that we know that we're going to be able to do really well over the entire length of the match, right? And in preparation for that is also working on things that we have to get better at. There's still offensive, pieces that we want to add to what we can do in serve reception, and probably incorporate more BIC attacking from our back row outside hitter, and making our middles run some different routes, to open up some different seams for our attackers and maybe pull, the opponent's blockers away from, some other hitters. So, we still have a lot of work to do in the gym, and it's really not about who we're playing. We're definitely not looking, too far down the road at who we play next or who we play in Event 2 or in Event 3. But really, as long as we're continuing to get better at the things that we know that we have to get better at to get us towards our goal, that's really what's driving us to work hard in the practice gym.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing you all taking on the Untouchables and the Florida Exposure. By the way, just a quick little side note, both of those matches, as well as all of Event 2's matches and the matches going forward, will all be live streamed, so there won't be any more blackouts. So if you're into live streams and not into Twitter updates such as mine, definitely do look forward to the NVA's YouTube page. You will also see Matt Prosser in the pregame show. He does a great job breaking it down, so gotta get that plug in there. Before we head on out of here, Matt, I do want to ask you a little about Long Beach State's men's volleyball team this year. Obviously, they sit at number 4, and they've had a solid season. Obviously, the departure of Alex Nikolov hasn't been easy, but I will say that they have been rock steady for the most part. Obviously, they had that one loss to Long Beach State, and they are in the final week of their regular season as they play UC Irvine. First of all, what's it going to be like seeing the Beats? And first of all, what's it like seeing the Beach this season as opposed to last season?
Well, yeah, obviously Alex Nikolov was a hugely impactful player on that program, right? And all the players, all the teammates, all the guys that got to spend that season with Alex learned a lot from him. And I know that Alex learned a lot from all the guys at Long Beach as well. That's definitely something that, causes some adversity in a program when you lose a player of his caliber. But Long Beach lost in the NCAA finals last year to a really good Hawaii team that they did beat them once already this year in Hawaii, and they lost the other one. So, they're 1-1 against them this season, which is good. Nobody else has been able to beat Hawaii, I believe, other than UCLA. And so, the Big West is a very, very competitive conference in 2023. And Irvine is ranked 5, Long Beach is 4, Hawaii is 1. So, all three of those teams being in the top 5 just speaks to how good the volleyball is. Now, for Long Beach, they've played consistent volleyball, but they have continued to improve as well. Really, you have Simon Torwi, their 6'10" middle blocker from Spain, who's leading the nation in block percentage. He came and he first started playing for Long Beach as an opposite, and now he's been in the middle. He's become extremely dangerous from the inline. His offense is really connecting nicely with Aiden Knipe, the setter, and again, block and defense for him has been a huge impact, And then Clark Godbold, their opposite attacker, I think he had 32 kills the other night, that 5-set win over Northridge. And that just speaks to how dangerous they are overhead. Clark's an unassuming opposite hitter, but very effective. And that Long Beach State team, they've been playing together for almost 5 years now. So they're really experienced group of players. They've been through a lot of stuff. And this is sort of the last run for this group of guys, Aiden Knipe, Shane Holdaway, Spencer, Olivier. And so I know that they want to go all the way as far as they can. There's some really good teams out there, and it's going to be a battle. But it'll be fun to watch as the men's season kind of winds down for Long Beach State.
I agree. So a little correction, and sorry to bring this up. Penn State was the one that beat Hawaii this year, not UCLA. So I just got to throw that out there, but it's all good.
Yeah.
So anyway, So looking at this week's matchup, Long Beach State plays UC Irvine, and UC Irvine is dramatically improved as they have quite the offense. They have some heavy hitters. I have that pinned down as my match and series of the week. What can you say about the Anteaters, and what's it going to take for Long Beach State to beat those pesky Anteaters in the, black and blue rivalry? I should know this rivalry.
Yeah. They do call the Long Beach State UC Irvine the black and blue rivalry.
Okay,
David Niffen, I think, has done a great job with this group of players. I got a chance to watch their matches from Hawaii last weekend a little bit, just because I was up late after our match on Friday and it was on. And UC Irvine does a couple different things. I'm going to blank on their names, but one of their outside hitters is left-handed. I believe it's Francesco Sani. He's left-handed and he's big and long and hits the ball at a different point. So that's going to, make for some challenges for the Long Beach State block and defense. But I know Long Beach is prepared. They're always extremely well prepared. Alan Knipe and the rest of the coaching staff put together just terrific game plans when they, prepare to play any team, but especially a team like Irvine, who's ranked one spot below them, would probably love to pull off an upset going into, the Big West tournament that starts in about 2 weeks at UC Irvine. So these are two really important matches for both of these teams that I wouldn't be surprised if both of them go, well deep into the fourth or fifth set on Friday and Saturday night.
Yes, it is definitely going to be a barn burner of a match, and I really am excited for this matchup. The two are basically, they can't finish anywhere lower than 3, so I imagine we could be seeing these two teams in the Big West Conference semifinals, or in the final, possibly. Obviously, Hawaii is in the driver's seat as they control their own destiny in terms of the Big West Conference, as they've got UC San Diego this weekend, but we can definitely expect a intense matchup between Long Beach State and UC Irvine. Before we head on out of here, just one last question for you, Matt. So what advice could you give to new NVA fans going forward?
Well, if anyone wants to start watching NVA volleyball, obviously, come watch it in person if you're close enough to make it to the venue. If you're not able to do that, watch it online, watch matches from last season, watch the pregame show, get some good insight from, myself and the other guys, Ira, Noah, and Nick, and getting ready for the action that's on tap. Follow, obviously, all the social media platforms for updates and, a little insider action to the NVA and what we're trying to do, and, bring professional men's volleyball to the forefront of American professional sports. It's a great product. It's a great game. And there's no better time than now, really, to jump on board with the NBA and become a fan and supporter.
And like I said, the NVA is just going to continue to grow, and there's no better time to be a fan than right now. All right, so thank you very much, Matt Prosser, for being a guest on tonight's show. And that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. It is that time to drop the beat, because me and Matt, or Matt and I, are about to dip like bananas in chocolate. You feel me? Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Set Point. Matt, thank you for being a guest on today's show. Where can these people find you at?
Well, thanks for having me, Teran. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm not a big social media guy. I've got one Instagram page. The Matt Prosser is pretty much the only social media platform that I have established. Or you can see me on the NBA USA Instagram page. Any ESPN Plus broadcast from Long Beach State. And, that's about it.
Excellent. Definitely do catch Matt Prosser this Friday at Long Beach State at the Pyramid, calling the game on ESPN Plus. It's definitely going to be a barn burner. Once again, thank you, Matt Prosser, for being a guest. For my guest, Matt Prosser, and for everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. Remember, this is the last week of the NCAA men's volleyball season, as it's sure to come down to the wire. Conference tournaments are in full effect next week, so be prepared for that. I will see you all from Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. But until then, have a great week. Stay safe, stay healthy. I will see you Friday and Saturday at Long Beach State and UC Irvine for those matches. And I'll also see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace!